Hello, my little artists. You are watching this video for one of two reasons. Either you missed the major introductory day for clay, which was Wednesday, or you are currently at home, whether it be COVID, a flu, a headache, whatever. You are watching this video. So make sure that you read along with this slide because I'm going to go over my expectations when it comes to this particular unit while not being physically in class. So if you are going to be at home during the beginning parts of this project, you need to make sure that you are printing off the PDF that I have placed below this video, currently in the weekly agenda. If you don't have access to a printer, you need to make sure that you are taking notes on a separate sheet of paper or in your sketchbook. It's totally up to you. If you have come back to school, then I will probably give you the PDF printed version and you'll just fill it in as you listen to this. So the second thing is that if you plan on being back at school before or on February 15th, which is next Tuesday, you must create thumbnail sketches for your clay project because you will be back in time to start on clay. If you know you are not going to be back before that date, I'm going to exempt you in the gradebook from submitting a thumbnail sketch because it is a grade, and you will be completing a completely different project that is not related to clay. Again, that's not a punishment. That's just my way of getting a grade for you while you are not at home. We have a vocab quiz that you are going to be taking regardless of whether you're in class or at home. It's going to be located on Canvas. It's open note, so you can use the notes that you took for your 1-point perspective project as well as the notes that you're going to be currently taking for this project. So even if you end up not being able to create clay, I still need you to understand how clay works and the vocab and everything that goes into it, because if you were to continue in Art 2 or high school credit or whatever, you need to know these types of vocab and just everything, okay? And I'll say it before, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. You need to make sure you're staying on top of your deadlines for all of your assignments. And again, please, please, please shoot me a message on Canvas or have your parents email me, whatever works best, to make sure that we're communicating on your expectations for turning in things. So this video is going to be located underneath. There's going to be a link underneath the video that I submit on the weekly agenda. So make sure you watch this. I don't have time to go over the video. So again, make sure you watch this on your own separate time. So these are the notes that you're going to start filling in. So kneading or pushing air bubbles out of the clay is to prevent possible damage while in the kiln, is also called wedging. So it's basically a fancy way of saying you're going to be pushing all of that clay back and forth on your table, rolling it out, making sure that there is no bubbles, there's absolutely nothing that could prevent your clay from getting ruined in the kiln. So kneading and wedging is the most important thing to do at the beginning, because if not, everything that you sculpt will pretty much be useless because it'll explode. So again, in regards to the explosion that we don't want to have, your clay should not be thicker than your thumb or thinner than your pinky. So about 1 inch, 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so if your clay is way too thick, it will explode in the kiln. If it's too thin, it'll crumble in the kiln. So it's kind of like the porridge and soup analogy I make a lot in class, but you need to find that happy medium between not too thick and not too thin, because it is important. It's not something that you can overlook. If you're getting lazy with it, then you're going to have it explode. You're going to be really upset with yourself, your grade. It's going to be a whole thing. So clay is something to be taken seriously throughout all aspects of it. So making sure it's not too thick or too thin is extremely important. Now, to attach two pieces of clay together, you must score and slip both pieces. Without doing this, your ceramic piece will fall apart. So scoring and slipping is essentially how it sounds. You're going to score or scratch little hashtags in the clay where you're wanting it to attach, and then slip. Slip is like our version of glue when it comes to ceramics. So This is kind of the adhesive that will help everything get attached. So slip is created by watering down old clay, and it's very sticky and muddy, but it really, really helps put everything together. If you don't score and slip, it will fall apart. I've had students in the past, again, they've gotten kind of lazy with it, and the whole thing just falls apart piece by piece in the kiln. So make sure that when you are working on clay, especially for our particular project, you are scratching or scoring and then adding slip. Now, to prevent your clay from drying out, you will need to wrap your clay in a wet paper towel and seal it in a plastic bag. So this picture below is obviously not the plastic bag that we are going to be using. We're going to be using those Kroger bags or grocery bags that y'all were so generous with donating. So again, thank you all so much for donating those. But we're going to be making sure that our clay stays nice and wet while we are gone for that 24 hours, right, to the next day. Because if not, and you come back and it's dried up or it's starting to dry, it's going to get what's called leather hard. And leather hard is good for some things, but when you're still really trying to mold the clay, you need to make sure that it's really wet. So the wet paper towel is very, very, very important. So once you have completed building your ceramic piece, you will need it to dry out. When your piece has reached bone dry status, it can be placed in the kiln. So bone dry is essentially what this picture is right here. You'll notice that your clay will go from like a grayish color to a pretty much white, and that's what will have to go into the kiln. It has to go into the kiln twice. So it has to go in when it's bone dry, and then it'll come out, and then it'll be called what's called greenware, and then that's where we put the glaze. And we'll kind of talk all about that in a minute. But drying out is really, really important. So while our clay is drying out, we will be doing like a mini project in between. Clay is not a consistent project. You have to kind of do maybe one or two things while it's drying before you can start working on it. So it's very much a patience kind of project. I've said this before, many a slides, but a kiln is a special oven where clay is quote unquote cooked. So I've been saying kiln a lot, but now we get to talk about what it is. So kiln is essentially a special oven. This is where your clay will go in multiple times, and it'll take a while because I can't fit 150 plus kids in our little kiln on top of Mr. Reyes's class that's currently doing clay. So it'll be a long time before we really get to finish our clay projects. I wish our kilns were bigger, but unfortunately, this is a standard size kiln. And this is a standard kiln. This is what they pretty much look like on the outside, and that's what they'll look like on the inside. Now, clay that has been fired and is ready for glaze. Glaze is liquid glass that gives ceramics a shiny coat of paint. You will need 3 coats of glaze. Remember, your glaze will look different when it comes out of the kiln. So liquid glass sounds scary, but it's going to go on just like paint, but it won't look anything close to what it looks like when it comes out of the kiln. So don't get so fixated on what it looks like in the little paint palettes that y'all will be getting. It's going to be completely different, but it's called glaze. It's not paint. It's called glaze. Now, again, I will attach this video below as well, so I really need you to look over this because this will essentially be part of your quiz that will be on Friday. So make sure you take a look at that. So what he will explain in the video is 3 different types of hand building techniques, and these are very important to know. We have coil, which is essentially you're just rolling it out. Pinch, which is what we will be doing for our project. We're going to be doing pinch pots. And then a slab is where you roll it out, typically with a rolling pin like you'd see in like a kitchen. And that is where you'll pretty much have a evenly flattened piece of clay. But like I said, we're going to be more concerned about the pinching technique and maybe a little bit of coil to attach certain appendages. So again, make sure you rewatch, but make sure that you do watch that video. So what will you be making? Given that, like I said, you return by February 15th, you will be creating a pinch pot pencil holder. And it could be an animal, it could be a person if you want to go that route. It really doesn't matter to me. I will help y'all create your little masterpieces. But keep in mind that you don't get all the clay in the world. Everyone gets a little bit of clay. So keep in mind when you're doing your thumbnail sketches, if you need to do your thumbnail sketches, that you take in consideration of how much clay you're going to need. I cannot give you more clay. It's what you get. So you need to kind of make it work. So if you're going to be in class in time for the project, your thumbnail sketches will be due before you get back. Of course, it says tomorrow because this is the slide that my kiddos will see in class on Wednesday. So again, make sure that you know you're communicating with me what time that you're going to be getting back, what day. Some other things that you'll notice on the quiz is that the cleanup process for clay is going to be a quiz grade, because cleaning up for clay is crazy important. There's going to be dust everywhere. It's going to be a hot mess. It's going to be like our painting days, but taken way more seriously. So those will be a quiz grade. Cleaning up will be a quiz grade. And the first thing that you're going to want to do when you're cleaning up is wrap your clay in wet brown paper towels. Not just start washing your tools, not wiping the tables. You need to make sure you take care of your clay before you take care of anything else. And then the last thing that you'll see on the quiz that wasn't necessarily on here is that you're going to have essentially what's called a parking spot, and it'll be your name written on the counter on a piece of paper, and that is exactly where your project will go. And if you get lazy with it, your project could be easily mistaken for somebody else's, and clay will all look the same in a bag. So you need to make sure that you're putting it exactly where it needs to go. And of course, I am not cleaning up after you. If you make a mess, that's not my problem. That's why it's a quiz grade. So I would recommend you look through all of these slides one more time, really watch those videos, take any notes that you need, and stay on top of your grades when it comes to the quiz on Friday. Let me know if you have any other questions, guys.